Hey, thanks for watching this video. Today we're going to show you how to get started with your ham radio and cover some of the basics you need to know before you get started.
CQ, CQ, CQ. This is KJ7IAZ.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. Today we're going to learn how to start using your radio and some of the basics that you need to know before you start. We're going to cover some things like how to know which frequencies you can be on and how to log your contacts once you make them, what you can do on VHF, UHF, and what you can do on HF. So come with me and I'll show you how. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, since we're at the computers, we're going to check out the band plan. And I'm going to put a link in the description to all these places that I go. I just want to show them to you, so you'll be able to find them easy enough on the internet there. So, alright, if we come over here, we've got the US amateur radio bands pulled up. And if you haven't got familiar with this yet, if you look over here on the right hand side is the key, and it'll show you amateur, extra, advanced, general, technician, and novice. The three that are active now that you can get are amateur, extra, general, and technician. So if you're a new technician, you've got a T. So then as you look along all these different, they've got like 10 meters and then 28 megahertz, so it's easy to find. If you're looking at 2 meters, this is going to be your local VHF, you know, your repeaters, your simplex and stuff like that on your handy talks and your mobile rigs and stuff like that. So is what you'll get is a lot of you new people will start off in this. You don't have to, but you probably will. So I'll kind of cover that. So you'll see that extra, amateur, general, and technician, they all have the same privileges on this band. So green is phone and image. So if you want to talk, phone is talk. You can talk in the green areas. So you'll see that on 20 meters. When you come over to 20 meters, there's no technician privileges on 20, but there is general and advanced and extra there. So on general, if you have your general, you can operate phone from 14.25 up to the 14.35. So as long as you're in here, you're good to go. As you get to your extra, it opens that all up. Now if you want to do data modes or CW, you can go and, well, you can do CW anywhere, but data modes will be in this red area there according to the key. All the different bands, there's kind of no rhyme or reason to it. They just list them here, so you can kind of figure out which bands you're going to operate on, where you can operate on. So that's kind of handy there. And then another thing that you need to consider before you start keying up is, this is also on ARRL's website, the Considerate Operator's Frequency Guide. So this will show you, this is all HF stuff here, but you can kind of go see where certain things are. Like you'll see in 20 meters starts down here, QRP CW. So if you're a Morse code, if you want to operate Morse code on QRP power levels, you can go to 14.060, and more than likely somebody will be there to help you. You know, if they see somebody calling on that frequency, they're going to know it's QRP, and they're going to be that much more likely to kind of come back to you and stuff if they can't hear you, because they know it's kind of a special area. Another thing, you know, if you're operating digital voice, they have an allocation for that. SSB, single sideband QRP 285. So again, if you're operating and you see somebody on that, they might appreciate it too if you come back to them, because they're operating QRP, they're not getting out as much power. So they definitely appreciate somebody coming back and letting them know where they can hear it, because they want to know where they're going. You know, they want to know how far they're traveling on their little station. So again, AM calling frequency, that's in there too. Different stuff. So kind of get familiar with this before you start calling. You don't want to step on you don't want to go out with 500 watts on a QRP frequency, because it's just inconsiderate, right? So that's why they call it the Considerate Operating Frequency Guide, because we want to be considerate operators. So one of the first things you'll probably do once you got a license is get yourself one of these handy talks, right? Little handheld transceivers. I've got two here. I got a Baofeng, and these are very inexpensive. A lot of people end up with one or more of these just because of the price point on them. Then I've got a little bit more expensive one, nothing super fancy. It's a tri-bander, that's why I bought it. It's an Alinco, and gets me on an extra band. But first thing you're going to want to do once you get that is program in the national calling frequency for 2 meters, along with other things that people use around there. Just ask around other hams and stuff that you get acquainted with in your area, and find out what they're using for frequencies. They'll probably give you a bunch of repeater frequencies, but the national calling frequency is a simplex where you're talking from one transceiver to the other. There's nothing in between. They just talk to each other. You typically got to have some sort of line of sight to make that work. But 146.52 will be a simplex frequency that you should be able to contact somebody on. Okay, as long as you're in a good position, get outside. If you have a hill or something around you, go to the hill and just go out and you just call CQ on that frequency, and hopefully somebody in the area will come back to you and you can talk to somebody. And that's always kind of fun. Now, the second way to talk to somebody, and probably the more popular way, is to go through a repeater. And how do you find your repeaters, right? So once you can find a repeater, you can find them by either talking to somebody that you know in the area. Hopefully somebody got you in, maybe you took some tests and met some people, but talk to local hams, or you can get on the internet into repeaterbook.com, and I'll show you that. So this here is Repeater Book, and again, I'll link this in the description. But once you come over here, you can create an account and save your repeaters and stuff in there. But you can just go through here, and I'll just click on North American repeaters, and it should load up a list of states here. I'm just going to go through my home state of Montana, click in here, and if I want to sort it down, they have a really good sort feature here. They also have an app too, so you can download your app on your phone if you would like to. It kind of makes it nice if you're traveling and trying to find something. So you can kind of walk through here and you can see these different frequencies. And you know, here's one that I know that we use. I think the just for an example, 145.36, and then they're going to do +6. So the way the repeater works is you've got a frequency that you listen to. That's going to be the frequency that you're going to listen in on is going to be the one that they listed as. So when you look at this, if you wanted to listen to see if people are using the frequencies, you could just punch this in and not do anything else, and you'd be able to hear anybody that's coming up. You can simply punch this frequency in, and that will allow you to listen to it. And then the transmitting frequency is going to be the +6 megahertz. Okay, that's a standard offset for repeaters. And then the tone, right? So the tone allows it to, the repeater won't key up and do the repeater magic unless that sub-audible tone is attached. So you'll have to program that into your radio also. So when you're going through your manual and you're learning how to program that, that's one of the things that you're going to have to set is the tone. So once you set that tone on this instance to 100, it will tell the repeater to actually kick on. So you can get on that, and then the best way, once you have a repeater, best way to do it is, I'm not going to turn my radio on or anything and go, but what you want to do is you want to just key up, you'll hit the key and you'll say KJ7IAZ and let go. All you're doing is throwing your call sign out on the repeater, and if somebody's listening, they'll come back and they'll say something along the lines like KJ7IAZ, this is whatever their call sign is, and they should, you know, hey, how are you doing? They may say something, and then you can come back and go, hey, you know, if your call sign is ABC123, this is KJ7IAZ, my handle or my name is Jeremy, how are you doing today? And then your conversation is started, and you guys probably go back and forth a couple times and get a lot of information and tell each other about how long you've been a ham, all kinds of fun stuff. But is what you can do is start making friends that way. So you'll start getting to these same people, and you get on those repeaters. And another thing that's really cool about repeaters is a lot of the local clubs and stuff will have nets on those. And then you can check into the nets and make sure all your equipment's working, talk to your people, find out about local events for hams. And then that's really where you start to kind of flourish as a ham operator and getting to know people around you, if you so wish. Some people just like to get on the air and talk to some people long distances away on HF, and they just leave it at that. But me, I like to get involved, so I talk about that a lot too. So now that you're on Repeater Book, you have a way to find a whole bunch of different repeaters and start making friends in that space. So another thing that you can do while you're on here, if you want, you can go over to ARRL.org/clubs, and that will allow you to find a local club if you haven't done so already. So if you get up on here, if you look, there's a button, find a radio club. Again, I'll just do my local area. I'm just going to put in my zip code, and I'm going to hit search, and it's going to show up. Here's the local club that I'm affiliated with, and you can actually go in. A lot of times I'll have a link for the club. Like for instance, they have a little website. It shows kind of when their club meetings are, you know, what their nets are, and that's a good resource for you too as a new ham to actually find some activity on the band so that you can actually use your ham radio how you expected to. So even as a technician, you can get on the HF bands. Okay, if we look at the band chart, of course the generals and extras, they already know that where they're at on that, but the technicians, if you look in here, you can do on 10 meters on the yellow sideband only. Okay, you can also do 6 meters, which is VHF, but that it can get some skip and some long distance communications there too. But you can do a little bit of 10 meter technician. So if you have a rig, HF rig that'll get on 10 meters for you, then you can do some HF when the band's open. So a good example to get on HF would just be to find a frequency inside your band plan and just ask if the frequency is open. Always transmit your call sign, but you know, KJ7IAZ, is this frequency in use? And listen. Asking again, is this frequency in use? Listen. If somebody's using the frequency, they should come back to you and go, yes, this frequency is in use, and then you just simply move. Just go, thanks, and move, and get over to a free one. A lot of times, if you just listen for a minute, you'll know if someone's using the frequency. But what happens is sometimes you can maybe only hear one side of the conversation, and the person that's talking, you know, maybe you scroll over in the middle of a conversation, you can't hear the second person. But as soon as you ask that, maybe the first person doesn't come back and say anything. The second time you ask it, they'll go, okay, he obviously doesn't hear the other guy, and I'll let him know that the frequency is in use. So if somebody's on the frequency, just move over a little bit. There's plenty of band for everybody. Once you call for a free frequency and nobody answers you, that's when you can start calling CQ. And a good kind of rule of thumb is just call CQ, CQ, CQ. This is KJ7IAZ. CQ, CQ, CQ. This is Kilo Juliet 7 India Alpha Zulu. Standing by. Or please come now is what I like to say. I just kind of like to use courtesy and ask. I find that I get more people to call back if I say please. So the object of that, and you can kind of make it your own, the object is to kind of get your voice out there for a little bit. Call CQ a couple times, because somebody might be looking at their signal scope, or they might be looking at you know, they're just scrolling through the through the frequencies, and that you want to have enough of a CQ that they will hear you, and then give them an opportunity. You don't want to go too long, because people will get bored listening to you, waiting for you to, you know, for them to come back to you, and they'll just move on. But just do something quick and easy. CQ, CQ, CQ. This is KJ7IAZ Kilo Juliet 7 India Alpha Zulu. Please come now, or stand by. Whatever you want to do, make it your own. But people will call back to you. Call 3 or 4 times, and then maybe it might take 10 times, 15 times. You don't know, but if you see activity or hear activity on the band is probably open enough for somebody to hear you. It doesn't take a lot of power. Just go. So if you're not having any luck calling CQ on HF, another fun thing that you can do is join another sub-activity like Parks on the Air or Ole Miss, or just look for some nets to check into. That's a good way to get a conversation with somebody and use your band privileges that way. One of the best ones right now is Parks on the Air. If you come over here, we can get Parks on the Air loaded up, and I can go in and I can choose a band, say 20 meters, and it'll start telling me that there's people on. It gives you the frequency, gives you all kinds of information. And you can find somebody to talk to, and you can hunt from home on Parks on the Air, so that's kind of cool. So you can actually go through and start getting like worked all states and stuff like that just through Parks on the Air itself. So that's kind of a really cool thing that you can do. And the other one, if you come over here, is Ole Miss. It's Old Man International Sideband Society. So these are just a group of nets, and you can get on their website and look and see when they're doing stuff. There's another really cool program called NetLogger. As you see here, you can go in and you can select a net, and you can see who's on, what time it starts and stuff like that too. So just kind of any time that you can get on the air, you can kind of come into this and see what's going on. If I pull up to one, I can monitor the net, and it'll show me who's all kind of in there, and you can start checking into the net, and you get your call sign in there and stuff too. So that's a really cool way to get on the air and actually get some contacts. Now, if you're not a big fan of actually talking on the radio, there's a couple other modes. One's Morse code or CW. You can get on that and go find some frequencies, get your key out and hammer away on that. I am not proficient in CW. I've been still trying to learn. Maybe someday I'll be able to get on and do some CW. But there's some digital versions of CW that you can use. Not sure if I'm a fan of that or not. Maybe that's a good way to get started with CW, but there's a lot of other digital modes that basically serve the same purpose as that, like FT8's a really popular one. I can show you a little bit of that somewhere in here. Okay, so FT8 is going to look like this. There's a program called WSJT-X. Some really people that are way smarter than me put this together, and what this is it's a digital mode that gets out there. You'll have to do a little setup, get your rig hooked up to your computer and stuff like that, and that's going to be way too much for this video. But once you get it set up, basically it just gets in here, and you can make a quick contact digitally. Your transmitter will send out a signal, they'll decode it, and it basically is going to send out CQ, your call sign, and your grid square. And then you can just start making a bunch of contacts that way. You can, it's a good way to make a lot of quick contacts without actually having to talk to anybody if you don't want to talk to some people. So that's a good way to kind of dip your toe into radio also. I also use this a lot when I'm doing antennas. If I build a new antenna or reconfigure an antenna, I can kind of test my antenna with it, and I'll turn it way down, and I'll kind of see how efficient this antenna is working, and it kind of gives me an idea if something's working good or bad. It tells me if the bands are kind of open or not too. So that's a really good opportunity for people too. So I touched on logging a little bit earlier. I'm using Log4OM. There's lots of different logs out there. Do a little research, try 3, 4, 5 of them, and find the one that you like the best. And then is what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to link that up for awards, for confirmations and stuff too. And in the settings, they're all going to be a little bit different, so I can't really help you, depending on which one you pick. One of the things I do is I link it to Logbook of the World. That's ARRL's logbook. And if you look over here, you'll be able to log in, and there's all kinds of stuff to set up on this one. It's kind of known for being a little bit of a work. You got to put a little work in. You got to install some security keys and stuff like that. But they have some really good documentation on here to get that set up. The other one is QRZ.com. This one is easier to sign up for. There's a ton of information on QRZ. If you haven't stumbled across this yet, go check it out. There's a lot of good information. There's forum, there's news, there's resources, there's all kinds of good stuff on here. There's practice exams if you haven't got your license yet or you're trying to upgrade. But you can go on and you can get your logbook. So if I go into my logbook, it'll show me all the different people I've contacted. And I have my computer log set to upload to Logbook of the World and to QRZ. So I can go to both of them. But what's really cool is you can go in here and you can go to your awards, and it'll start giving you awards, and you can start tracking all these different awards and looking at your worked all states. It gives you a nice little visual representation, and then you can go on and you can buy certificates and stuff and kind of support their efforts on what they provide too. So definitely recommend looking into that. Once you start collecting states, it gets really addicting to try to get it. And then once you start collecting countries, it starts getting addicting to try to get all the countries and stuff. You'll hear DXCC and stuff like that thrown around in the ham community. So it's kind of one of the things you can do. Awards are a lot of fun to try to earn. So, well, that pretty much sums it up. So if you've made it this far, please subscribe to the video, like it, share it with your friends, share it at a club meeting. Just share it a bunch everywhere, all your social media. Help grow the channel out. and it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate it. So make sure you're subscribed. I have plenty of videos in the pipeline coming down, so you'll want to make sure you get notified on those. So thanks again for watching, and please go into my channel and check out some more of my videos to help get you going. And I always love to respond to comments too, so drop a comment if you've thought of anything along the way or have any questions. Just reach out to me on the channel and I will address it. Thank you so much.